Yes, good afternoon. My name is Keith Daly. I'm a principal consultant with IBIS. We're a Sonata software company. And today I'll be looking at the budget planning via workflow in Microsoft Dynamics 365. This is an informal walkthrough of the process. Basically, our demo outline is essentially very, very small, if you will. This goes up pretty quick. What we're going to do is we're first going to go out and decide which data to use. We're going to go into General Ledger and go in and fire off a trial balance and identify our data, if you will, what we're going to use for the basis for our 2017 selling expenses. We're going to go out and basically do some budget plan generation. We're going to go out and create a 2017 selling expense budget planning aspect out there. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to send that out for review out to an individual, and he's going to go out and edit and publish that via Excel. And then we're going to convert that plan over into what we call budget entries, and then convert those budget entries into the actual budget, and then of course extend that out to our reports. And finally, we're going to go out and look at a actual versus budget report and see what happens when we lodge that budget up against actual numbers for 2017. We're going to go out and we're going to exercise two demo roles, particular budget manager. I myself am going to play the budget manager. I'm going to go out and prepare that initial budget plan. Then I'm going to send it out to the budget clerk for a review and edit. And then that budget clerk's going to pick it up. He's going to review and edit it, and he's going to send it back to me for finalization. And then I'm going to extend that out to the financial statements. So that's our general plan at this point, and we're going to cut to the chase. We're going to go right into the application. Right now, I'm playing the role as the budget manager, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to first show you the information or the data that we're going to use for the basis for budgeting. So we're going to go back to January to December of 2015, and we're going to isolate some of that information. So let's go out and do that right now. We're going to come out. We're going to fire off a trial balance, and we're going to run it by certain financial dimensions. That is by business unit and by department. Again, I mentioned that I was going to run this for 2015 full year, and I'm going to go ahead and calculate the balances real quick. And as soon as this comes up to screen, we're going to highlight a particular area out here, some selling expenses. So I'm going to generate a filter. So I'm going to come in and do 6012. I think this is my selling expense area. Yep, got that highlighted there. When we look at this, these are all of the selling expenses for main account 601-200. You can see business unit 1, 001 and 002, and then several departments out here. And we see some dollar amounts out here for those respective combinations. Now, one thing we don't have within this particular screen is a total, but however, we can always send our information out to Excel. So I'm just going to go ahead and send this quickly out to Excel, get some quick balances out here. So I'm just going to download this real quick. I'll go ahead and open up that file. Okay, so you know you can see the Office integration, Office 365 integration at this point. You see our total dollar amounts out here, and it looks like we've got probably about $180,000, about 181, getting close to that. So there's our totals out there. With this, you can manipulate these numbers and then send them back if you wanted to, but I'm just trying to show you the totals that we're starting off with. So our basis numbers, about $181,000 coming from 2015 trial balance. So I'll go ahead and skip out of that for a moment. All right, so now that we've identified our information, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a process that's actually going to use those numbers right there to fuel our 2017 selling expenses. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and do what they call the budget plan generation. So I'm going to jump over into our main workspace areas out here. So I'm going to come out to workspaces, and we're going to jump into budget planning. Okay, so out in this area, what we do is we start off with the budget planning process. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brand new 2017 selling expense budget planning process. So I'm going to come down here over onto the right-hand side. By the way, this is the workspace area. This is the common area out here in Dynamics 365. So when you go into budget planning, you have just a kind of a consolidated work area out here. Allows you to add in things like milestones, budget plans, forecast positions. In a couple minutes, we're going to go out here and use these generation options over here. But for right now, we're going to go out and create the budget planning process. So this kind of sets the foundation for where everything's accumulated, how this is going to be administered, what are some of the budget planning stage rules. So I'm going to go out here and create a brand new budget planning process. So we're going to come out here and name this 2017 selling expense. Okay, let's leave that right there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and leave that right there. I'm going to say 2017. Okay. And I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and whittle this down just a little bit. I'll just go, how about this? Let's see. Give it a little bit of an acronym there. All right, formal name. And now a budget cycle comes into play. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this into our 2017 budget cycle out here. So that fiscal period, if you will. The ledger that we're going to deal with, that's corresponding to the company. So we're going to come out here, grab the company. All right, so USMF. And then it asks me for a default account structure. The account structure basically equates to the main account, the department, and the main account, the business unit, and the department. You'll see that coming into play in just a few moments. But basically, it outlines the account structure of the main account and the financial dimensions. We're going to come down here and pick up an organizational hierarchy for budgeting and departments. That'll lay out all the responsibility centers that we're going to be dealing with. And what it's asking me for is to assign a budget planning workflow. And I'm going to use planning on each one of these. So I'm going to come down and just basically highlight this. Kind of copy this in. A little bit of planning right there. A little bit of cut and paste. Okay. Let's see. I come up and grab that one now. There we go. Planning and planning. All right, so we're good to go at this point. I'm going to close the administration area. We're going to come down and look at the stage rules down here. And essentially in here, what I'm doing is I'm going to lay out the requests that'll go to the individual departments. First is going to be one that goes out for initial approval. And we'll go ahead and get that layout set up. And it's basically going to come in the form of a department request. And that person will be able to add lines and modify lines and do all that kind of stuff. And essentially, once he's done from there, the department request is going to go down. It's going to become approved. So in that sense, we're going to have a format for them to take a look at that as well. So that's going to come in the form of an approved budget. So basically, these are the layouts. So this lays out how the information is going to be presented, number one, to the department and those that are going to approve. So we're pretty much finished in that area. We can add some milestones if we wanted to, but for our purposes, we're completely done with this point with completing the budget and planning process. So I'm going to come up and hit save on that. Okay, so we're going to hit save. And we're going to close out of that. Okay. Now, as I mentioned before, once we've got our plan in place, so we've kind of set the foundation, if you will, the journal where we're going to capture all this information. We're going to go out and generate some numbers based upon some general ledger information I showed you before from back in 2015. We have options to generate budgets from the general ledger, the one I'm going to show you right now, because it's probably the most prevalent. But we can generate budget plans from budget plans, those from previous years, if you will. You don't necessarily have to go back to the GL. You can use another budget plan. You just copy that over again. For acquisition budgets, you can use this fixed assets piece. It'll go out there and grab your acquisitions from previous years and let you take a look at that. Forecast positions, basically labor, project-oriented information. If you have project-oriented operations out there, and you want to be able to, if you have cookie cutter projects out there, you can probably use those. Demand and supply forecasting comes from our planning strata within the Dynamics 365. You can also pull from budget register entries, those that have already gone through planning, made it to budget entry, so you can go ahead and just utilize those as well. And in a little bit, I'll show you what we're going to use to generate budget entry for. That actually takes the plan and actually creates the budget entries. So we've got a lot of options out here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover the generate from budget plan, if you will, in just a second here. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to say generate from GL. So we're going to go ahead and do that. All right, now out here, what we're going to do is we're going to pick up and create a brand new budget plan. And here you can see it's based on 2015. I had already run this before, so it remembered that I was doing this for 2015. So in most Dynamics 365 screens, it remembers the parameters that you had set from a previous sessions. I'm going to go out and grab some selling expenses, and particularly the 6012 series from our expense area. And down here, I'm going to pick up on our new budget planning area. So let's see here. Where we got you? Budget planning process. Just 1 second. I'm going to back out of here. I need to go set the plan as far as being active. So hold on just 1 second. Let me come back and correct that situation. Okay, so back out here at SE, all right, underneath actions, need to activate that guy. All right, so a little bit of troubleshooting going on there. The budget planning process isn't activated until you activate it. Okay, so there we go. Fun moments in demonstrating. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of that now and pick up where I was at. So I'm going to go ahead here and generate this budget plan from the general ledger. So again, I said we're going to create a new budget plan for 2015. We're going to pick up on expenses from 6012. And down here, let's see here, we should have our budget plan. There it is, 27 SE for selling expenses. Okay, so we're a little bit better shape now. We're going to come over here and select our baseline budget plan scenario. Okay, so we're going to take from our baseline that we picked up. I'm just the initial guy who's setting up the budget out here. So I'm going to pick the baseline later on, and we'll go out into the department. I'll show you how that happens in just a moment. And just for one moment, I'm going to bump up the by a factor of about 10%. I'm going to take my $181,000 and I'm going to bump that up by 10%. So I'm going to use this factor right here. And so 10% up, we should end up with somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe about $198,000 to $199,000 once I'm done with this. So convert that 181, bump it up by 10%. So we're going to generate that now. Okay. So in the background, that piece generates. And you can see up in the upper right-hand corner, the budget plan was created. It's number 40 out here. Okay. Now I'm going to come and come underneath the budget planning process. We're going to pick up the SE process. Click that up. Okay. Oh, and there's our budget plan right there. So we're in good shape at this point. So it's been generated. And what we're going to do is we're just going to dive into it just for a moment and look at the results that we have out there. So I'm going to dive into document number 40 here. Okay. All right. So we've got our baseline budget out here. So this is what we're going to start with. You can see I say baseline because right now it's being suggested as these are the dollar amounts. And you notice over in the quarters out here, they haven't been allocated. So it's just saying, it's just suggesting right now what a baseline is for these particular accounts. All right. So at this point, what we would do is we would come in, we would review this particular thing. We would say, hey, we could come out here and allocate this if we wanted to, and we'll go ahead and do that at this point. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to allocate. So I'm going to come in and highlight the lines, and I'm going to allocate the budget. Okay. Now this is where I go from baseline and I send it over into the department request. Okay, so I'm going to say I'm going to grab a period key out here, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to just allocate it across the quarters evenly. So I'm going to take this 35,000, this 23, and basically spread it across the quarters, and it's on a weighted average by days per quarter. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer my baseline. I'm going to move it over into the area for the department request. Okay. So it's just point and shoot on those particular items. If you wanted to ratchet it up again, you certainly could, but I'm done doing that. So I'm going to take my, about my $199,000 and go ahead and allocate that right now. And you can see that in the process screen in the middle of the screen. So we'll go and let that allocate. All right, so we could see our Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 have been allocated, again, on a prorated basis out here. So at this point, I could send this out to Excel. I could, just to verify the totals out here. And, that's probably a good idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just send this out to a worksheet real quick. So let's send this out to a worksheet. Again, Office 365 integration coming through here. Got a lot better in D365. So I'm going to go ahead and open this guy up. Boom. And let's let it drop in our numbers over here. This is actually it's coming in and it's looking into and verifying the security coming into play. So at this point, I'm going to come in, I'm going to sign in. Okay. Come in as Keith Daly IBIS Inc. Okay, so it's retrieving some metadata down here. So it's going to bring in our detailed budget plan information. Okay. There it comes into play. All right, so we've got, let's look at our baseline out here. As I mentioned, we bumped it up by 10%, so I went from 181, bumped it up by 10%, so now I'm about to 199. As you can see the sum total down here at this area. Here I can also do a quick sum right there for those that can't see the lower left-hand corner. So we're about to, about $199,000 worth of budget plan at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. Okay, again, that's just the integration with Microsoft Office. So, okay, so at this point, from a budget planning, again, I'm the budget manager. I'm just responsible for pulling the numbers out here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and submit this out to Workflow. The Workflow is going to pick this up and it's going to send it out to a gentleman by the name of Ken Calvert. He's the controller for our demonstration here. He's going to take a look at that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be switching users in between this to simulate his user experience. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come out here in Workflow and I'm going to submit this. So I'm going to come out and submit. I'm going to say, hey, Ken, take a look at the SE budget plan. Okay, we're going to go ahead and submit that. Now notice my status over here is in review at this point. Okay, if I come up here and click the workflow button, I can recall it, or I could view the history of what's going on out here. You also get a small blurb of saying, what was the latest action. So today at 7:25 p.m. looks like Keith Daly out here did a little bit of planning out here. Now you can recall it again, and you can also view the history. But basically right now it's out there submitted to the workflow, and it should be sent over to Ken. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out at this point. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and sign out. And I'm going to close all the way out of Internet Explorer. Now, what would happen is, just to simulate, Ken would be essentially on his machine right now. So he would log in as his user. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to do just a shift right click and run this as a different user. And I'm going to run this as Ken. So I'm going to put in his credentials. Okay, and right, so we should be able to accomplish that. Oh, but here comes MSN. All right, all the good information there. All right, as quick as we could get over to the demo, here we go. So we're gonna go Ken in ibis.com. All right, so logging in there. I'm gonna hit the remember credentials on this one. Didn't get a chance earlier. Okay, so now when Ken logs in, his experience is a little bit different. When he lands on the desktop, he can only see budget planning, a few different workspaces. So Ken over here is basically he's a controller, but he also handles some of the budget planning aspects. So his role is essentially budget clerk at this point. So we're going to come into the budget planning area. Okay, I'm going to click on that. All right. So yeah, he should come out here and also look at the same budget planning process that we had out here. So I got this selling expense area. Boom, got that out here. Now, as soon as he clicks on this budget planning process, immediately is indicated budget plan is assigned to me. So you can already see the influence of work orders, or the workflow, excuse me. So here's our document number 2040 coming over to him. You can see that I had prepared it, but I was sent over and it was assigned to Ken. So he's going to be looking at this now. So we're going to drill into the budget details. So just click on document number. And at this point drops down and Ken's able to see his information for selling expenses by business unit and department. Of course, you can come up here and you can do an edit and you can manipulate the numbers within this grid. But as this is demo information, this is a small slice right here. So you're looking at anywhere from about 10 to 12 lines. Most budgets are going to be, hundreds, thousands of lines potentially. So in this case, you probably wouldn't come in and manipulate from this particular grid. So while I could come up and edit and change, what most everyone is going to do is you're going to go out here and you're going to use the worksheet and use this for manipulation. Use the wonderful functionality within Excel to essentially manipulate your numbers. So I'm going to come out here and I'm going to open this up. Now it's going to ask me for my credentials again because now I'm in as Ken. So I'm going to have to log in as a different user. Again, this is all security. You don't want people to be able to pull information in any short fashion. You want them to be able to come in with proper credentials and hit that data in a secure fashion. So you can see the loading coming off to the side, and it's trying to verify authentication right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out of this and I'm going to sign in as Ken just for a second. So I'm going to get the sign in once again, and I'm going to come in as Ken as IBIS Inc. So again, proper security taking over at this point. Okay, well, the Office add-in catches up here. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to increase a couple of the lines with a certain dollar amount out there, and then send that back into Excel, and then back into Dynamics 365, and go ahead and commit that. So let's see if we can get a little redirection here. Just a second. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bounce out of that just for a moment and try signing in once again. My apologies. Had a password off to the side over here. So let me go ahead and add that in now. And I'm going to go ahead and keep those credentials. There we go. Okay, looks like Office 365 is catching up here. It's retrieving the metadata right now. Should be returning our dollar amounts here shortly. Okay. All right. So now we're in the mode where we can edit the Excel spreadsheet. And then essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one line out here. I'm going to bump it up by just a simple dollar amount. As you know, we were at 198 and some change. I'm going to bump this up by about $40,000. So we should be at about 238 once we're done here. So I'm going to come out here and bump up each one of these quarters for just this period. See, 0222 out here. So I'm going to increase each one of these by $10,000. So a total amount of 40K. Yes, we're increasing the budget here. Folks over in 022 are going to be very happy. We're going to plug in an extra $10,000 for each quarter. All right. So now this will really stick out. We're going to bump this up from about 23. We're going to bump that up to about $63,000 out here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out and publish that. So I don't know if you saw it, but it said that it updated one line. None of the other lines changed. So the logic is if you go out and change any one of these lines like I did here, that this is one record change. Okay, so we went out and published that. And I'm going to go ahead and close out of this particular spreadsheet. I'm done with that. I'm not going to save it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out and I'm going to hit a refresh out here. Okay, now, oh, there's my 10,000 each. It just bumped in. So now the quarterly amounts have all bumped up. I did notice one item that doesn't update the total amount requested. So I'm going to go ahead and make that change right now. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go out there and save that. Now from Ken's standpoint, he says everything's fine. I think this looks good. We've already inserted our additional dollar amounts out there. Oh, my apologies. Let me come back here and bump that back in. I am going to, my apologies. I'm going to reallocate the budget on that one just for a second. Make a quick adjustment. Okay. I'm going to reallocate that piece. Okay, so now I'm back out there again. Okay, I'm going to come in. I'm going to bump these little guys up manually. Okay, there we go. Okay, then I'm going to save that. Okay, now what's going to happen is we are going to go ahead and approve this with comments, if you will. So I've just bumped that little guy up by about $40,000. You can see the increase there. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Ken, I'm going to go out and go to my workflow, and I'm going to approve this. So Ken says, yep, with that additional 40,000, I want to approve that. Okay. Approved with 40K increase. Okay. To 002-022. All right. So we're going to leave those notes in there. We're going to go ahead and approve it. All right. So now at this point, no approval. It's out and it's sent out back over to review. And essentially, I can only view the history at this point. Can't recall it. So once you approve a baseline budget and you go through these motions, you essentially can only go back and view. You can't recall this particular action. Okay, so Ken's done at this point. He would come out. and he would log out of the session for the day. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go and return back to my previous session. So I, as manager, are going to receive his reviewed budget. So right now we're signing out. So we've got to go through the motions of getting me logged back in as K Daly, back in as budget manager. All right. Oops. My apologies. Let's come on out of there. Okay. There we go. All right, just 1 second. It appears my user is stuck in here with Ken. I'm going to go ahead and log all the way out of the browser. I'm going to bring the browser up one more time. Okay. Let's go up and fire up our demo instance. All right, so it looks like I made it in as Keith Daly again. All right, so I'm in as budget manager. We're going to come in, we're going to do a little bit of budget planning, and then we're going to move over to ledger budgets and forecasts. But let's finish out the budget planning piece. Okay, so we're going to come up and grab 2017 SE. All right, we have some budget plans prepared by me. Okay, so we can see this SE out here. And it's already gone through the workflow status, so it's already been assigned to Ken. He's done, he's approved it. So let's go in, let's drill down into the plan for just a moment. All right. So out here now we've got our bumped up amounts. You can see our 10,000 has increased. The quarters down here for 002022 department. So those are all coming into play. Can bring those in so you can see them just a little bit easier. Separate quarters. Now, essentially at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to assign all of these budget plan entries. We're going to go ahead and send this over into the budget register entry place. And this is where we're actually committed to the actual budget so we can extend it out to the financial statements. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. So we're going to say add to budget entries. So I'm going to take our budget model out here. And I'm going to pick on a particular budget model. And let's see here. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this 2017 P&L right here. Okay. So we've got this in play. We're going to basically drag all that in one for one. We're not going to increase it by a factor. You know, we've been given three opportunities, one at the beginning of the budget plan, after review, during the review, and now at this point, when we're creating the budget entries, we're getting the third opportunity. We're going to go ahead and leave them as they are, and we're just going to go ahead and generate those budget entries. So we're going to go to this process run. All right. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of this just for a second. Budget entry was created. Okay, so we get the notification there, nice workflow notification. All right, so now we've got some budget entries to go over and review. And this is where we take a little hiatus out of our normal workspace, budget planning, and we come down into ledger budgets and forecasts. Okay. Another workspace, and essentially what this allows you to do is to, just like the other items, we're going to come in here. We're going to look at this this fiscal year 2017. Okay, got a couple down here. So fiscal year 2017, and all draft budget entries. So we've got these in play out here, right? All right, and I'm just going to go ahead and sort this real quick, just by date. Just 1 second. Let me go ahead and sort that real quick. Okay. We broke this up by the whole fiscal year. So what it's done is it's broken up the dollar amounts and put them into their proper buckets, if you will, by fiscal period. So at this point, this is the true amount of detail that you get out of the budget plan. So we've converted it now into these budget entries. Budget Manager can manipulate the entries if you want to. You can open this up in Excel just like the other screens. But essentially here you've gone through the gauntlet, if you will, the budget planning, you've gone through the workflow. Essentially what the Budget Manager should do at this point is update those budget balances. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. So this is actually the process of committing it into the actual. So we're going to do the update at this point. Okay. Operation completed. Good sign out there. All right. So now we're going to dive out of here for just a moment. And we come back into the Ledger Budget and Forecast area. I'll go ahead and just clear that message right there. Off to the side, all sorts of inquiries that you have. Probably the most prevalent, though, is the actual to budget. This is where you can see the alignment of your budget against the actuals. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to go ahead and click this inquiry. So on-screen reports. Don't necessarily have to go run a manager report, but we do have those equivalents as well. So we're going to look at this through the eyes of a main account, business unit, and department view. So we're going to grab that financial dimension set. We're going to grab the proper budget model out here. In this case, fiscal year 27 P&L. And at this point, I'm going to apply the parameters. Now, this will give us all the accounts, not just the 6012 series, but this will give us all accounts up here. So you can see, balance sheet accounts. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll down just a little bit. All right. And keep on scrolling until we get down to the 601s. Those will be coming up here shortly. All right, here and now they're coming into play. All right. So you can see we've got our revised budget coming into play out here. And our dollar amounts are coming in. It's coming up against the actual. So 35 versus 31, you've got about $4,700 left. You've used about 86% of that budget. So essentially what you do is, you can do a quick comparison over here. Anything over 100%, obviously you've got an overage out here. So you've got an actual amount of $20,000 and you were budgeted for 15. So you've got a little overage event there. So this is where, basically the budget models come into play and where you start laying it up against your actuals. So at this point, we've gone all the way from the budget planning process. So we went out, we identified our data. We went out and did a budget plan generation. Set that out for review. Ken took a look at it, bumped it up by about $40,000. I then committed that to the actual budget. And of course, this is where it lands. So out here, at the end of the day, we should have had about $239,000 worth of budget, gone all the way through and approved. So let's just go through, and right now we're going to verify that real quickly. So let's run our report up. Again, this will be a complete report in that it's going to drop it down, and let me move it over here for you. So all accounts come into play. Let's go ahead and scroll down just for a moment. And of course, here's our budget out here. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. 238,000, folks. So we started out with about 188, bumped it up by about 10%. That got us to the 198 mark. And then Ken bumped up that one particular department by about 40. So at the end of the day, we're about 238 out there. So overall, that's the whole process. So I selected the data, generated a plan, sent it through workflow, and then went out and committed it out to our reports. So that's budgeting in a nutshell. But that functionality out there of being able to send our applications out to Office 365, manipulate the numbers, That functionality exists all throughout the system. So, to conclude, our process is very, very, very fluid, if you will. It runs very, very efficiently with the workflow process backing it up. So working with these different roles allows us to utilize that different workflow and to segregate those different operations. So that's budget planning in a nutshell. If you have any questions, again, my name is Keith Daly. I'm a principal consultant with IBIS, or Sonata Software Company. You feel free to email me at kdaly@ibis.com. Thank you and have a good day.